Hello and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to add in that sort of amber coloured button that we saw in the Tailwind lesson. But before I do, I'd just like to recap on the way we did it in that lesson. We created a div like this and we gave it an ID, and then I've just dragged in this button.js, which is the code we were using at the time. And we went and got that element, the div element, using getElement by ID, specifying its ID here. And we created a button, and then we appended the button to the div. We've been through that a couple of times before. Now, when working with React, we go about things in quite a different fashion, so it shouldn't surprise you too much to see that instead of creating a div and createElement, what we do is we create a React component here. So I'll call it CenterButton like this. And then we'll create that component in a separate file and we'll import it a little bit later. Typically, we have a folder in a React application called components where we put our React components, and that can have any number of different hierarchical sort of styles, but I'm just going to create a center button right in the middle of this. So center button.jsx. So notice that the file name is the same as the component and begins with a capital letter. Now I could just write the code out here, but generally what I do, I use an extension to sort of scaffold my new components. So let me just show you my list of extensions. At the moment I've just got these, but let's add in a React extension, which is very popular. You can see it's this one here. I just install that. Then this allows me to use a sort of Emmet style scaffolding in my center button. So I can type RAFCE, and that stands for React Arrow Function Export Component. I just hit tab after that and it puts this scaffolding in place. Now we don't actually need that import, but there we are. This is a basic scaffolding. Notice it's by default it's created a div. What we actually want is a button here. So I'll just change that button, and we probably want to change it to click me, something like that. So once we've got a button, we can then set about importing it into the main app. Just as we did before, we'll say import center. And again, we don't use curly braces there because it's a default export from, and then /components/CenterButton.jsx. And that should be enough if we just do npm undev. There we are. We now have this button. Doesn't do a lot at the moment, but we've at least created it. We can now set about styling it and making it do something when we click on it. So for styling, I'm just going to use pretty much exactly the same styling we used before. So let's just copy that in. Okay, I've copied the actual styling into my paste buffer, so I can put here class name equals, and then paste in the original Tailwind utility classes we used. And let's have a quick look at what that looks like. There we are, that looks better. And finally, we just need to make it respond to being clicked on. So to do that, we add another attribute. Class name was the first attribute. That's a separate line for now. And now we're going to have an attribute called onClick. We're going to set that. Now here we're going to use curly braces with some JavaScript inside them. So I can put any JavaScript expression between these curly braces. So I could say the name of a function, but I'm actually going to define a function, an arrow function. I'm going to say alert clicked. So that's an entire function between these curly braces. And if I now, what's going on, I click them, There we are. So when I click on it, it actually executes the function. So that's a good start. In the next lesson, we'll look at how to make this button count up, and we'll come across a React state for the first time. So I'll see you then.